So let's go ahead and take a look at how the app delegate gets launched. And that's actually going to happen from the main file here. So we've been looking at everything under the main project protein tracker, just kind of out here. That's where the app delegate and our view controllers were. But if we look at the supporting files here, if I expand this, you can see the first thing we're going to look at is this main. And it's worth talking a little bit more now about this auto release pool and what this does. Basically, an application is going to need to have this auto release pool because the auto release pool is basically a pool of memory that the system and your objects also can use to allocate memory for the objects to be created, and then to have all of that memory, all those objects be released at one time when that pool disappears. And if you can see kind of how this pool wraps your application. So here in this first line, we're creating this auto release pool. And then in this last line, before the application exits, we release the auto release pool. And so you're able to actually utilize the auto release pool. You have to have one started before your application starts so that the system can use it, because it's going to use it for some functionality. And what you can do is, instead of doing a release on an object that you've allocated, you can actually do an auto release. And when you do that, it will basically keep it around until the release pool is drained. At that point, it will actually be released. So if we look here, what's going on, this is probably pretty familiar to you if you've done any C programming or even Java or C++, having this main method and passing in arguments in here. When you pass in these arguments in here, they get passed on to this UI application main. And this UI application main is not a custom class. It's a system level class, but it is set up by default to basically, the way it figures out where to go from here is that it looks at what is set up as your main window for your application, or your main controller, your main view. And if we look at this info, or actually this protein tracker info plist, you can see here that we have this main nib file base name. And I can look at the raw key values here. ns main nib file is what this actually is. And this file, by the way, this plist file, is basic settings about your application. It's like a properties file that has your application's properties. And this nib file, it says that it's main window. And if we look at main window here, we can look and we can see what the app delegate for main window is. So if I bring up this view here, we can see that the app delegate is a custom class, and that's the protein tracker app delegate. So there's the connection. It's a little bit difficult to see exactly how are you getting from this main here to actually launching into this app delegate. But the key is what's actually happening here is, by default, this UI application main, when it's called, it's going to look into the plist and see what the main nib file base name is. In this case, it's main window. So knowing that, it's going to try and load this main window nib file. It's going to look at the main window nib file and then see what the app delegate is for that nib file. And since it sees that it's the protein tracker app delegate, then it knows how to launch that and to start that up. And then this starts the whole process, because now you have your main view controller, and then now we're in this view controller, and from here we can show our view and we can get to the other views there. One other thing to note in here is this PCH file, this protein tracker prefix PCH, and all that's happening here is that this is a standard import that's going to be added to all of your .h files. It's that's going to make sure that UIKit and Foundation are in there.